For the better part of 2 decades, the shonen genre was defined by a single type of protagonist, the heroic optimist. The grand purpose of that era was aspiration. The story existed to tell you that if you tried hard enough, you could become the Hokage, you could become the Pirate King, you could become the strongest. However, the sun has set on that era. We have entered a new narrative cycle defined not by aspiration, but by attrition. The modern shonen landscape is dominated by what we call the broken hero. These are protagonists who do not seek to rule the world, but to merely survive it. From Boruto Uzumaki's stoic exile to Yuji Itadori's self-dehumanization, the goalpost has shifted from becoming the best to enduring the worst. This then brings us to the core question of this video. Why has this shift occurred now? To answer this, we have to look at the mechanics of brokenness. It's not just about the characters crying or getting beat up. It's a fundamental restructuring of the hero's journey that mirrors the sociological burnout of the modern audience. We're no longer looking for a savior who fixes the system. We're looking for a survivor who navigates the collapse of it. To understand this shift, we must start with the most controversial transition in the genre, the move from Naruto to Boruto. Why does the sequel to the most optimistic series in history feature a protagonist who loses everything? Well, in the original manga, Naruto Uzumaki was the child of prophecy, a messianic figure destined to bring great change to the ninja world. He could have either enacted great stability or great destruction. His destiny was an additive. He would gain friends, power, and later status. Boruto's narrative is built on the inverse. Early in the series, the antagonist Momoshiki Otsutsuki delivers a distinct prophecy. Those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from you. The mechanic itself activates through the omnipotence plot device. Reality is then rewritten. Boruto, the beloved son of the Hokage, swaps lives with Kawaki, the outsider. In an instant, Boruto is framed for killing his father and is hunted by the very village his father built. The prince, in essence, became the pariah. This forces a radical shift in characterization. In Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, over 3 years after these events, Boruto is no longer the bratty kid who cheated in the exams. He has become cold, stoic, and purely functional. He has repressed his expressiveness because his survival demands it. He operates within the Shadow Hokage mentality of Sasuke Uchiha, but without the support system Sasuke eventually had. Boruto acts as the noble protector of a village that wants him dead, while Kawaki, now in the role of the prince, exists with paranoia and fear. The broken hero here is defined by stoic repression. He accepts the hatred of the world not because he deserves it, but because enduring it is the only way to save the people who despise him. If Boruto represents the tragedy of destiny, Jujutsu Kaisen represents the tragedy of an industrialized society. Why does Yuji Itadori reject the title of hero in favor of being a cog? Well, in classic shonen, the hero's internal monologue is about their dream, while Yuji Itadori's internal monologue is about his function. Following the Shibuya incident, a catastrophic event where his mentor Nanami is killed and his friend Dabura is critically injured, Yuji does not have a power of friendship awakening. Instead, he confronts the villain Mahito with a chilling realization. I don't need a meaning or reason. I'm like you. I'll just keep killing curses until I rust away. That is my role in this war. This is the mechanic of depersonalization. Yuji strips himself of his humanity to cope with the trauma. If he's a human, the pain is unbearable. If he's a machine, the pain is just maintenance. The hero becomes a component of the system. This resonates deeply because it mirrors the burnout society. Yuji is the ultimate gig economy worker. He is disposable, overworked, and tasked with cleaning up a mess created by the previous generation. He doesn't fight for glory. He fights because he's terrified of what happens when he stops. There's also that theme of power as a burden, which is echoed in Satoru Gojo. Gojo is the strongest, yet his power creates an infinity between him and others, literally and metaphorically. He is isolated by his own excellence. His false self is a playful mask worn to hide the fact that he cannot relate to the people he protects. The broken hero in Jujutsu Kaisen is either a tool used until it breaks or a god who is too lonely to relate to anyone. Now we move to the most radical deconstruction of the genre, Chainsaw Man. Why does Denji's dream of simply eating toast feel more relatable than Naruto's dream of becoming the Hokage? Well, most shonen heroes start at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They seek self-actualization, such as status, respect, and a legacy. Denji starts at the very bottom. He has physiological needs. He wants food, shelter, and sleep. When Denji says that his dream is to eat bread and jam, it isn't a joke. It is a depiction of extreme poverty. The mechanic here is scarcity. Because Denji is starving for both food and affection, he's easily manipulated. Makima, the control devil, offers him these basic needs in exchange for total obedience. This creates a broken hero who is willing to be a dog, literally barking for his master just to feel safe. And to be honest, that is why we love him. In an era of economic instability and recession, the dream of ruling the world feels delusional to many young viewers. The dream of having a stable job and breakfast feels real. Denji represents the doomer optimist, someone who acknowledges that the world is garbage but finds joy in the small, absurd pleasures of existence. This poverty of ambition extends to Gabimaru from Hell's Paradise. He is an elite assassin who claims to be hollow, yet his entire motivation is simply to return to his wife. He doesn't want to change the shogunate or find the elixir of life for glory. He just wants his normal life back. His brokenness comes from the fact that he was trained to be a monster, but his humanity is the only thing keeping him alive. We cannot discuss the broken hero without addressing the terminal point of this archetype, Eren Yeager. What happens when the hero realizes they cannot change the future? Well, Eren begins as a generic angry protagonist, but the reveal of the Attack Titan's power, the ability to see future memories, traps him. He comes to realize that time is a fixed loop. The atrocities he will commit, such as the rumbling, are choices predetermined by his own nature. They are events that must happen to reach the end. In this case, the hero becomes the villain and the victim. Eren's famous mantra, "I just kept moving forward," changes context completely. Initially it sounds like determination. By the end it sounds like resignation. He simply moves forward because he cannot stop. Eren represents the ultimate tragedy of the broken hero, the loss of agency. He conquers the world, but he is a slave to his own story. This resonates with a generation that feels trapped by systematic issues that feel inevitable regardless of individual action. This then brings us to the final critical question. Why do we, the audience, crave these stories now? Why has the audience rejected the hot-blooded winner for the traumatized survivor? What does the popularity of the broken hero say about us? Well, psychologically, the hot-blooded hero like Luffy and Goku offers escapism. They show us a world where effort equals success. The broken heroes such as Yuji and Denji offers validation. They show us a world where effort often leads to burnout, but you keep going anyway. There's a cathartic release in watching a character like Gojo or Boruto, figures of immense power, be brought low. It humanizes them. It triggers a caretaking impulse. Furthermore, this aligns with doomer culture. Mangas such as Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Hell's Paradise resonates because they acknowledge that the system is rigged. Yuji cannot fix Jujutsu society, he can only suffer within it. Denji cannot fix the world, he can only survive and persist. We love the broken hero because they redefine bravery. Bravery is no longer about winning, bravery is about persisting. When Yuji says, "I am a cog," he's not giving up, he's finding a way to function in a nightmare. When Boruto loses his family and status but still chooses to protect the village, he demonstrates a resilience that feels familiar because he has no promise of getting anything in return. That is why the era of the invincible sun is over. We're now in the era of the flickering candle. The broken hero archetype, from the cog of Jujutsu Kaisen to the exile of Boruto, tells a story that is darker, grittier, and more cynical than its predecessors, but it's also more honest to the society we now live in. These stories argue that you don't need to be the child of prophecy to be worthy. You don't need to fix the entire world to be a hero. Sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is simply look at the horror around you, accept your scars, and to quote a certain tragic titan, just keep moving forward. If you enjoyed this analysis, you're gonna want to check out the video that's on screen right now. I dive even deeper into the mechanics and themes of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is the perfect companion piece to what we just discussed. As always guys, thanks for watching.